Look, it is a challenge in higher density areas for people to get outside and to spread their legs.
I'm a bit sick of dropkicks that can't get themselves organised.
Tonight on the whip, the 4-year term ditched. New Zealand's infrastructure plan out as user pays part of our future, including a toll on the bridge. Pauline Hanson's One Nation absolutely surging in the polls, and is Chris Luxon our new national hero for holding an umbrella? Is it the little things that get the voters? With me this evening, Ruwani Perera, journalist for News Hub. Ruwani, great to have you here.
Thank you. Hi.
And Jonathan Milne, Newsroom Pro Managing Editor. Kia ora, Jonathan. Nice to have you here.
Good evening, Wallace.
Joined by former Labour MP, former Minister Chris Carter, held numerous portfolios, including that of local government, conservation, building issues. Chris, it's nice to have you back again. Kia ora.
Kia ora, Wallace. Great to be here. And of course, I'm the only one of us that's been a whip before.
That's right. That's right. Well, and might I add, you look fantastic in that wonderful Pacifica shirt you got on as well. Yes. Very cool. Now, before we get into it, we always have that quiz. Have a listen to this. What former politician was interviewed in a sauna? Here's a clue.
Personally, I saw it differently from the way a number of board members saw it. I thought a challenge in Auckland's hottest sauna to stay there for 30 minutes was kind of fun. Yep. I understand that's not the perception, or not how everybody wants a political leader to think.
Simon Bridges?
Not quite, but hold your tongue. Hold your tongue.
It's not for us. It's not for us.
It's for the listeners. So 2101. Who was that? Gosh, that brings back memories, doesn't it? Now, but big story.
I'm getting visual memories, which is worse, though, Wallace.
It's the visual thing, isn't it? That's right. Now, a big story broken by One News tonight. The government has ditched plans for a referendum on a 4-year election term. The bill was originally taken to Cabinet by ACT leader David Seymour and was set to be added to the election vote this November. Let's go round the panel here. Jonathan Milne, you first. Are you disappointed, surprised? What's your take?
I'm not entirely surprised because I think we're all expecting a bit of a bonfire of the policies from National and the government this year. It's election year. They want to discard stuff that isn't actually sort of going to win them votes and it isn't really close to their hearts. This is a bit insignificant for them. I do want to say...
So why say it? Why say it? There's going to be a referendum and then don't do it.
Look, Simon Upton put in a really interesting submission to the Select Committee on this, and he's of course the Environment Commissioner these days, but he was writing in his personal capacity, and he says there's not actually any evidence, no evidence, that giving an extra year will cause governments to be sort of more thorough and reflective and up the quality of their lawmaking. They'll just cram in more rubbish.
That's interesting, Ruwani.
I just feel like, the runway is so short. We were just talking earlier about how the election campaign almost started at least 6 months ago. So the runway is so short up to election. You feel like, as distasteful as it sounds, 4 years sounds like you could achieve more. But I understand why they've ditched this. They've got to move on. It's not particularly popular thing. No one feels strongly.
Probably because we've only got a 3-year term that they don't have time to do the 4-year term.
Well, according to David Farrow, who polled independently on it, he said that it's very popular with the electorate. I mean, you were from inside the house. How did you feel? How would you feel being in a 4-year government, Chris Carter?
Well, actually, Wallace, it's one of those things that's actually a sensible thing to do, but it's not popular. We had a referendum in 1967 and again in 1990, so trying to extend from 3 years to 4. First time it failed by 67% and the second time by 68%. So most people don't like politicians much. They don't trust them. They're cynical about them, and the thought of them being extended for an extra year, I'm afraid the talkback would have a field day with it, would never pass. So I don't often agree with things that the national-led government does, but in this one, I think they were probably, they could see it was a dead horse.
We're stuck. I mean, Jonathan, so we had infrastructure expert John Tukey on the show last night talking about this new infrastructure plan. We're going to come to that in a minute. Who said that these big projects just can't happen with a 3-year election term. And it's because of having a 3-year term is why big business overseas won't invest in us.
Yeah, sovereign risk. Look, I've argued the same myself, but I'm actually, we're all allowed to change our views occasionally. I'm actually softening on that one because I don't think that the 3-year term is the problem. I think the consistency of policy making. So if you can build consensuses across the House, if you can build coalitions, that is what's going to deliver you the longer term strategic thinking, not longer terms. 3-year term, 4-year term, that's not going to make the difference in addressing climate change.
Agree. A cross-party support on the big issues is what's needed. It doesn't really matter 3 or 4 years. You just need that longevity.
But that's really hard to achieve. I just think of the Northwestern Motorway, State Highway 16. Under Helen Clark, it was widened and extended. John Key comes in, he cuts the busway out so he can extend the motorway further north, funny enough, towards Omaha Beach. And, now we're going to have to build a new, extend the busway on Northwestern Motorway again, now, it's because we absolutely need it. Could have been done in 2008 if the Nats had bought into it, all done, paid for now. So you're right, it has to be a cross-party, but it's really hard to achieve because people are looking for the quick fix.
Chris, you know what would really make the difference? And I know you say politicians aren't popular, but what would really make the difference in terms of better quality lawmaking? More MPs. And Simon Upton makes this point as well. We need 150 MPs, not 120 MPs, so they've got more time to sit on select committees, to analyse legislation, to think about policy, to listen, to consult.
That would be really popular, wouldn't it?
The listeners are throwing like rotten tomatoes at you right now.
2101, who would like 150 MPs? No, you are with Ruwani Perera and Chris Carter, and we have Jonathan Milne. And by the way, it seems like that's a very hard question. I thought it would be easy, but what politician was once interviewed in a sauna? 2101. But to this happened today too, this afternoon. Winston Peters has been accused of pure racism, quote unquote, in Parliament today when he singled out Green MP Tiano Tuiono for his Rarotongan heritage. Labour leader Chris Hipkins immediately called the remark pure racism, but pollster and panellist David Farrar said earlier on the programme that Labour can only distance themselves so much.
As Chris Hipkins has said, this is pure racism, must be condemned. But a couple of days ago, he was saying, he's still holding the door open to go into coalition with New Zealand First if they need them. So his position is, it's pure racism, but we'll work with you if it is.
Does David Farrar have a point there, Chris? What do you think?
Look, I got kicked out of the House once for calling Winston a racist, way back in 2002 when I was Minister for Ethnic Affairs. Winston's a massaging of the race issue and the religious issue is old stuff. It was, first of all, it was Chinese. Then after 9/11, it was Muslims. Now it's Indians. He's doing what Pauline Hanson's doing in Australia. He's doing what Nigel Farage is doing in the UK. He's doing what Trump's doing in the US, what Marine Le Pen is doing in France, what Alternative for Deutschland is doing in Germany, what Vox is doing in Spain. It's a sort of global phenomenon in the Western world at the moment, this anti-migrant attack on minorities, on transgender people. And look, good old Chris, you call out racism when you hear it, and I called it out 15 years ago to Winston, and Chris is calling it out now. He deserves to be called out because he's just massaging this anti-migrant minority unease that's hitting the Western world.
Or is it's a high bar to say something is pure racism, Ruwani?
It's election year, Wallace. Like, he's classic textbook Peters, and he's had clashes with Tiana before over the Aotearoa New Zealand as well. It's just lowest common denominator stuff, and it gets people talking.
Gets people picked up, yeah. Jonathan.
Look, I heard David Farrar earlier. He's essentially saying it's part of the rough and tumble of politics. Tiana should just harden up, essentially. I disagree entirely, and I think David's missing the point. Yes, Tiana, he's tough, he's a big boy, he's paid his salary, he can roll with the punches, but it sends a much darker message to those who aren't MPs, who aren't on big salaries, who are in vulnerable communities, who are minority ethnic groups, who are in vulnerable, refugee or migrant groups, that we will not support you as a community, that we will punch down to them. And they're the ones who this is targeting, not Diano.
It's tacky and cheap.
Yeah. And it's not just Winston, of course, it's Shane Jones as well. I mean, my colleagues here will have seen in the paper the other day, he was going on that as closing off these rock pools, saying, well, it's time that these people started eating Beijing duck again and not seaweed and mollusks from our ponds. And then earlier he said, do we want 500,000 Indians pouring into the country with the free trade agreement with India? These are this is dog whistle stuff coming from New Zealand First, not just Winston, but some of his cronies as well.
We're going to come back to this theme, I guess, with talking about Pauline Hanson and One Nation. You listen to the opinions of Chris Carter, Ruwani Perera, Jonathan Milne on tonight's edition of The Whip 2101. And they're coming through now. Who was the politician that was interviewed in a sauna? No, it wasn't Sir Geoffrey Palmer. Now, as we speak tonight, yet again, the country is hammered by a devastating storm. It was Dunedin in the firing line today with a significant landslide triggering evacuations. But huge swathes of the country affected by storms this year. It's only February. So is it time for politics to be taken out of planning for the weather events? I mean, Jonathan, you talk about cross-party consensus. I mean, this has become such an issue. What's your take on this? Do you think that we need more cross-party support for some deep planning here?
Yeah, 100%. And that's what the Infrastructure Commission is there for. And they issued their National Infrastructure Plan yesterday. And, I don't want to blow my own trumpet, but it's 200 and something pages, and I have read most of them. And there's commitment, there's at least lip service from the parties across Parliament to hearing the Commission's plans and strategies and to trying not to politic too much around it. You even have Christopher Luxon saying that infrastructure should not be political. Actually, it should sit outside and be managed by an infrastructure commission. That, to me, is a step too far, with respect. I think that's actually a bit ludicrous, because at the end of the day, these decisions do have to be made in Parliament. Somebody has to allocate the billions of dollars of budget that these things cost.
Yeah.
So you can't take them out of politics entirely. But what you can do is politicians can step back and make a genuine commitment to recognise that this is really long-term planning, and it can't be subject to the whims of every election campaign.
What do you think, Ruwani? I mean, this is really hitting, isn't it? It's strong and devastating lives.
Absolutely. I mean, it's been heartbreaking watching what's been going on. In all manner of parts of the country, and to Jonathan's point about what the Prime Minister said about taking it out of the politicking, yet they cancelled the $6 billion climate resilience fund. So it's like, where is the commitment? Where's the plan?
Although
I don't see a plan. It's like, let's build more roads.
They'd say the money is still allocated, but not a ring-fence fund. Chris Carter, what's your take?
Well, I was on the last plane out of Wellington on Sunday afternoon, and that storm was pretty fierce that was hitting the lower North Island.
Yeah.
And, I live out west, Cyclone Gabriel flooded lots of houses in West Auckland. We're still picking up the pieces now. Absolutely, I agree with Jonathan and the colleague here that it should be a cross-party agreement on especially major infrastructure projects. I mean, I did reference the busway on the Northwestern Motorway as an example of something that was started, stopped, and now started again. You've got to have certainty around these projects. They're huge amounts of money, and they're really important for the development of our country. So two things. One, we have to be in sync but across the parties for emergency response to climate change impacts of weather and other natural hazards. We also have to be committed, agreed for long-term expensive infrastructure.
Well, shall we jump into that, because that leads nicely into this next topic here, the future of our infrastructure. Is it a user pays model? That's the recommendation laid out in the first National Infrastructure Plan, an independent report looking for the next 30 years of our roads, hospitals, pipes. And one suggestion to cover the astronomical cost gaps is more reliance on tolls. And when it comes to the second Auckland Harbour Bridge, Infrastructure Minister Chris Bishop says the new bridge, that'll definitely be tolled, and they haven't ruled out tolling the existing one.
Well,
that is actually one of the projects that can be essentially a form of user pays, because 200,000 vehicles cross that bridge every day, and so there's enormous traffic volumes. And the Commission makes the point that we need to be moving towards a more user pays system for roading.
And he says that no party has been perfect, including his own.
I think successive politicians and political parties have been guilty of pretending that things are free and that they're easy to do and deliver, cheaper than they often are. And I include my own party in that.
So just like the weather is a time to put aside politics and get on with it. Ruwani, what do you think?
I mean, we all talk about that, but there's no commitment from any of the parties to do this. And we just saw that housing accord a few years ago where National committed to with Labour, and then it was everyone is looking after their own skin in the game. And there's just, I think if we all do a kumbaya, then what differentiates each other? And it's ego and politicking and fight for survival of each party.
Is there enough detail in this 30-year report? It seems to me, or seems to some, at least Jonathan, here we have another big report that's destined for the filing cabinet.
Well, I'll give you some detail, and I'm sorry about this, Chris, but your Northwestern Busway and the second Waitemata harbour crossing are both signalled clearly in that report as probably being unaffordable. And this seems to have been missed by a lot of people who've said the Commission's calling for a $9 toll to build this harbour crossing. They're not. They're saying even with a $9 toll, it would cost $7 to $9 billion, and that probably wouldn't be enough to build it. They're saying that these big ticket items aren't affordable. And sorry about your busway, Chris.
Defend your busway, Chris Carter. What's your take on this?
Well, they've started to build the interchanges already, so that's going to be money down the drain, isn't it? Look, I remain optimistic that the busway will happen. If the toll goes on the bridge, of course, it'll be wonderful news for my close friend and former colleague Shannon Halbert, the Labour List MP and former MP for Northcote, because I'm sure he'll win the Northcote seat at the next election if the Nats put the toll on the bridge.
But let's get real here. Tolls are a way of life. We go overseas, we pay tolls. I mean, okay, $9 is pretty extortionate, but tolls are a way of life. We have to start paying. We have to start paying out of our own pocket.
Absolutely. And the alternative, let's be very clear about this, and the Infrastructure Commission is clear about this. The real priority with our changing demographics is health and hospitals and health clinics. If all our taxpayers are paying for these big ticket harbour bridges and tunnels and busways, sorry, Chris, then that is coming out of the pocket of the little old lady in Napier who walks down the road or catches the bus to Hawke's Bay Memorial Hospital for her dialysis every few days. She's not using the harbour bridge, but she's paying for it through her taxes. There has to be 100%. A great degree of user pays.
Well,
we need to get real.
Or, of course, progressive taxation, which would, of course, go a long way towards paying for these major infrastructure stuff. So, maybe we do need a wealth tax. Maybe we need to, the wealthy in New Zealand do need to pay more so that we can build a society where we have decent hospitals.
I want to bring up Chris's point on the politics of the toll. So, yesterday, this $9 a ride, you should have heard the North Shore residents that I talked to in horror. Now I understand there's going to be a public meeting next month about it.
Of course.
Read the report.
Yes, but will National get spooked on this? Because across the North Shore, there's a few blue voters there, Jonathan Milne.
Of course they will.
I promise that no government is going to progress that second harbour crossing anytime soon.
Yeah.
I'm 51 and I do not think I will live to see it.
Yeah. 100%.
Really?
I agree.
I think your question was about the $9, though.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah. So
other Nats got the guts to do it? I don't think they have.
Absolutely not. That's a vote loser.
Yes.
Yeah.
What do you reckon, Jonathan?
Amongst their own.
I think $9 as a toll is a tad high.
Okay. But you think it's gonna happen?
I don't think a $9 toll to build the harbour bridge is going to happen because I don't think the harbour bridge will be built. I do think more toll roads are absolutely necessary, as Ruwani said. Okay,
interesting. All right, now we have on Chris Carter, Ruwani Perera and Jonathan Milne this evening, 9 away from 8. Thank you for your feedback. It's coming through now. And look, to this simple question, but it's quite tricky. What former politician was interviewed in a sauna. Here's a clue.
Personally, I saw it differently from the way a number of board members saw it. I thought a challenge in Auckland's hottest sauna to stay there for 30 minutes was kind of fun.
Yep.
I understand that's not the perception, or not how everybody wants a political leader to think.
So, have you ever had a sauna, Chris Carter?
Oh, I think I've been in one with you, Wallace.
Oh, shall we just abandon the rest of the
But we didn't talk about
topics
politics,
and
right?
concentrate on this?
Definitely not. Definitely. Was it Les Milne CBD?
Yes, it was. Chris.
Right.
There you go.
That's a hot
And it
one.
was-
On more than one occasion.
That's right. And it was very honest, wasn't it? We kept it above board, talked not
Absolutely.
about
Did
politics.
you make eye contact?
No.
No, you never do.
I said, are you Chris Carter? Yes. Are you Wallace Chapman? How are you? And that was
And then it was
great days in the Les Milne sauna all around. No, anyway, with us, we have Costas from Whanganui. Kia ora, Costas.
Yeah, g'day Wallace. Hello everybody.
Hello. All right, who do you think that was?
Well, my memory's a bit misty, but I believe it was former Conservative Party leader Colin Craig.
Is Costas right, Jonathan?
Absolutely. And I think it was David Ferrier
yes.
interviewing him, as I recall.
Is that
Guy Williams? No,
No,
David
it
Ferrier.
was
David
David
Ferrier.
Ferrier.
It was different David Ferrier.
Not the pollster.
No, David Ferrier,
Yeah,
exactly. Would you like to see that back, Costas? Get the real oil from politicians this election year, interviewed in places like saunas?
Yeah, I think so. I think David Ferrier was kind of ahead of his time. There's those YouTube channels where they interview people eating, spicy pieces of chicken. So maybe bring back the sauna interview.
Good on you. Hey, thanks for listening, Costas.
Steve Braunius did table tennis interviews
That's
to record
right,
each
yeah.
election season. He'd
really?
he'd
That was
interview them
different.
over,
It was
over a
great.
game of ping
Yeah.
pong.
It was great.
Right.
It was great. All right, 7 away from 8 on the panel now to Australia now, where a right-wing populist party has seen a momentous rise in the polls. So One Nation has climbed so high that a political scientist we spoke to earlier this week on the panel, Jill Shepherd, could not believe it.
20% feels like, okay, that's a lot of people, but it doesn't feel like a serious number. When they got up to 25, 26%, I thought, yeah, okay, this is a bit more legit. And then we had Anthony Albanese, our Prime Minister, say, this isn't a mainstream party. This is a fringe party who aren't seriously challenging our duopoly, but they are at that point.
So a minor party getting 25% of the polls, Ruwani, what do you see going on here? I mean, it's quite a story in Australia.
Oh, it's huge. I listened to a podcast recently with Carl Stefanovic. She was the first guest on his new podcast, and he asked her what would it be like if she was Prime Minister, and she said the country wouldn't know what happened to it. She is basking in this. She reckons 40. She was saying 40% in rural and regional Australia amongst national and Labour voters. She's getting Labour voters who are so disillusioned with the Albanese government. And like Chris said, it's the Farage momentum, it's the Trumpism, immigration, anti-immigration. It's quite, she's 71 years old. And
Is she 71? I didn't know that. Okay.
I had to fact check that. And she is fierce. She is gunning for this. She wants to have her daughter there as well, be the first mother and daughter in the Senate.
So this polling is historic.
Hot.
ABC was quite big on this. It's been less talked about here in New Zealand, Jonathan. But what is interesting is Pauline Hanson is dialing back the rhetoric that she was once known for, even that sort of banning the burqa stuff, her stunts in Parliament. She's really dialing that back and sort of bringing in that wider constituency, perhaps.
Yeah, and look, we're seeing, I don't know what you call this sort of global movement, some kind of populist, nationalist, conservative movement. In the States it's MAGA, but we're seeing this around the world. And somebody submitted a piece which I'm going to publish at Newsroom, which makes a very good point that those conservative parties that are unwilling to embrace this new alt conservatism are getting subsumed and consumed by it. And we see that with the Tories in the UK. We see that with the Liberals in Australia, where these fringe parties are overtaking them. And I guess the question for National in New Zealand is, will it be subsumed, or will it allow itself to essentially enter into a sort of more long-term alliance with the New Zealand Firsts and the Winston Peters of the world.
It's quite the challenge, Chris.
It is quite the challenge, and as both my colleagues have referenced, this is a global phenomenon, particularly in the Western world, from Portugal to Germany to Australia. And those currents eventually wash up in our shore. They've started already. Winston's
Look at the bump in their polling.
Yeah, Winston's polls are quite high. He's playing this anti-migrant view. He's focusing on the free trade agreement with India to massage that uncomfortableness about the numbers of migrants coming to New Zealand who look a little bit different. I think it's, Jonathan's right. It's a scary phenomenon, and we have to be vigilant about it. We have to call it out when it degenerates into racism and xenophobia.
Right. Now, finally, on the whip, I just got to bring this up. So, rights to open manhire, one man, one instinct, one umbrella. When everything changed for Chris Luxon, not all heroes wear capes. Sometimes they carry umbrellas. The scene was captured best by Nancy Liu, a Nat Party list MP, who posted straight away, "This is the Chris Luxon I know." Around the panel, Chris Carter, what do you think? Was this heroism in its rawest political form, carrying an umbrella for someone?
Well, I think if leadership is about putting up a brolly over somebody who's talking in a mic, I think that's a nice gesture, but I'd expect a leader to be leading our country. And, we could go through a list of boo-boos that Mr. Lux has done, from his rates at Waiheke to a whole lot of other things. And I think that, it's a bit sad when a list MP is sort of treating him like Kim Jong-un and praising the dear leader.
Oh, that's a bit unfair. That's a bit unfair.
I love the fact check. I love the fact check of Nancy Liu's, her entire post. Look, if it was a candid camera scenario and you see someone doing that, I think it's like holding the door open for an older lady or getting up off the bus. So, 100 points for manners, top manners, but...
It's the little things that people look for, Jonathan Milne.
There's
Are there votes in here?
There's a whole lot of political dissing of Luxon over this and piss-taking, but ultimately it was a spontaneous, nice gesture. Good on him, I say.
He did a nice.
Good on you. Hey, what a classic, fantastic panel. See you in the sauna later on in the year, Chris Carter. But for now, have a great night, everyone. Chris Carter, Ruwani Perera, Jonathan Milne, kia ora. Stick around because we've got Nights with Emil Donovan.